folks, BlackCross here, and welcome back to another Kingdom Hearts Ultimania video where I talk about anything in regard to the Kingdom Hearts series, the series that I absolutely love, and everything that I want to talk about Kingdom Hearts. Didn't think I'd come back with another one, huh? Well, I got more. And this one, I'm just gonna break your brains. I'm gonna blow them up. I'm just gonna blow them up into bits and let you pick up the pieces right afterwards, because I have something that you didn't think would be possible, and that is that Kingdom Hearts actually have rules. Weird to say that, right? Yes, I'm actually being serious. Kingdom Hearts actually has a set rules that it uses in order to follow along a basic pattern to make itself reasonably understandable. Basically rules that I have made up that either comprise of different interviews from Tetsuya Nomura and the team themselves, from Square Enix. Basically anything that has been said in the past, I have basically been relating back to those same articles and just kind of rebuilding as to what the series has built up, and I have come up with a set rules that helps make the Kingdom Hearts understandable. You heard me. I have 3 rules that will help explain the Kingdom Hearts series in a lot easier fashion. You may think I'm crazy. And you're right, I am crazy. I mean, look at me. Look at me. I am a Kingdom Hearts nut here. But aside from that part, if anyone is going to dissect the series and try to make sense of it all, it's going to be someone who actually loves the series. And therefore, I'm going to do that. I'm going to do the impossible and actually explain to you how to make the Kingdom Hearts series simplistic to understand, and for your messed up brains to kind of wrap around the series and understand it.
Rule number 1.
So before we get on to the first official rule, let me just go ahead and state this right now. These rules have not been confirmed by Square Enix or Tetsuya Nomura themselves, but rather they have been formed after hearing multiple reviews and hearing multiple theories and understanding the series of Kingdom Hearts a little bit better each entry that comes along the way. We understand new material that comes up, we understand new terminology, and we've unraveled new things as the series has moved on. That's why we should bring up to the first rule of the Kingdom Hearts series, and that is the rule of magic. Yes, you heard me, the rule of magic. So magic can be explained in 3 different categories. There is the fantasy genre, then there is the scientific genre, basically sci-fi to some degree, or science fiction, or basically any kind of magic that has a little bit more thought into it. And then there is the unexplored magic. So fantasy magic is basically magic that just happens in thin air. You can almost kind of relate this to like illusionary magic, but at the end of the day, it's magic that has happened right in front of your face, but you can't quite comprehend how it works. You know what I mean? It just kind of happens, which also kind of follows along the same material that Disney has followed along the way, you know? The magical world of Disney that they have been known for years. So this kind of makes sense, you know? This kind of realm of magic makes sense for the realm of fairy tales, per se, which definitely fits along within the Disney envelope. Then we get on to the scientific magic, the magic that can be explained, and the magic that goes a lot deeper in terms of explaining how magic works. For example, when you watch, The Sorcerer's Apprentice with Nicolas Cage, he goes on to explain how to cast fire from the palm of your hand, actually explaining the scientific term of how to build up heat into your hands and causing fire to erupt. Basically dissecting magic in a scientific term to explain itself. Basically, calculating magic. It's weird to think that magic can be explained, but if it can be explained, it's probably a scientific term of magic. Basically being able to explain what is going on behind it and stuff like that. And in a way, Final Fantasy has kind of evolved into that realm. At first, it started off as fantasy, but as the years have progressed, it has also went into more of a scientific term as to how magic works. For example, in Final Fantasy VII, the materia were made in a lab, basically condensing the Mako itself, the life stream, and condensing it into materia, in which people are able to use the materia to cast different magic, whether they be the summons, healing magic, whatever the case may be. That's basically the explanation of the science term. Same thing was like Final Fantasy VIII with the draw magic and stuff. Final Fantasy X with this sphere systems and stuff like that. If it can be explained as to how the magic works, then it is scientific. If it cannot be explained, then it is just fantasy magic. But then we come to the third tier of magic. The third tier magic of the unexplained or the unexplored. Basically, this is where you go into the weird make up as you go along the way, and then you find a way to explain that format. In a way, in the sense, the best way to explain it is with The Last Jedi. In The Last Jedi, Luke Skywalker uses a new form of technique that has never really been seen from a Jedi per se. No other Jedi that I can think of, or at least anyone that I've ever read about per se, has ever been able to use this type of technique, in which where they are able to force project an image into other planets while being isolated in their own planet, which is crazy to think that that was actually a thing that could happen. But that's part of the fantasy aspect of magic, in the sense of that it's a new form of magic that no one ever thought of. Basically, you're reinventing magic in order to fit into the story. This works very much the same way in which how we saw pure and day that Donald Duck use a magic called Zeta Flare. And I'm pretty sure before Kingdom Hearts 3, the term Zeta Flare hadn't been a thing. It has not been invented yet. Or if it has, I certainly hadn't heard of it at the moment. The only other one that has been known to use Zeta Flare is none other than Bahamut, and Bahamut was also the only one who ever used Mega Flare. However, Sora in the past has used Mega Flare in some form of way, in Chain of Memories and in Dream Drop Distance. Heck, Birth by Sleep Cast has used Mega Flare, so technically Mega Flare is attainable with a little bit of work. Zeta Flare, on the other hand, though, is a life or death situation in which where it could kill the user unless you're bloody Bahamut. So in the sense of the Kingdom Hearts story, if there is a way to make up a form of magic to fit into the story, they're going to do that. Same way with how the time travel mechanic works. Time traveling is a form of time magic. Not in the same way that is used technically in the Kingdom Hearts series, such as slow or stop, or in Final Fantasy fashion, haste, for example. It's kind of different in the sense of like you're actually going back in time per se. And we've only seen this happen technically 3 times now. 3 separate times as to how the magic actually works of time traveling. You have the basic time travel mechanic in which where Merlin opens up a door and they're immediately in the past. And Merlin specifically says, careful of dark intentions, meaning don't fuck with the past! So that's one way of time traveling work. But then we have the second way in which where Master Xehanort uses it. And the way that it is used is a little bit more complex, a little bit harder to kind of decipher how it works until Kingdom Hearts 3 comes out. When Kingdom Hearts 3 came out, it became a lot more simpler to understand because that was not his only form of gaining vessels for his 13 organization members. No, that was just part of the plan, technically. Part of the plan. The way in which he had his self go into the past with his younger self to retrieve other people that they deemed worthy as vessels for organization members. Like, for example, his younger self, his heartless self, his nobody self. So technically, Xehanort had multiple versions of himself, followed by Terranort, followed by some of the members from the original Organization 13, followed by members that he himself had pulled out from previous time, Vanitas. So technically, the time travel aspect wasn't really that complicated, but rather it was part of something that was going to be part of another situation. It's not a big, massive thing to talk about or anything like that. It's just a matter of like, hey, this is how he was able to pull other characters from the past and bring them here to the present. You see what I mean? It didn't need to be fully explained, but it definitely was complicated. And it definitely left a lot of theorists brain farted for a couple of years, until Kingdom Hearts 3's ultimate release. And even then, it took Remind to actually fully explain itself. And then you have the third tier, where it actually fully explains how the bloody thing works, thanks to frickin' Kingdom Hearts Union Cross in its final chapters explaining what happens to potentially not only the Union leaders, but also to the frickin' foretellers. So yeah, time travel is a form of magic. It is an unexplained form of magic, but it is magic that is still exists within the Kingdom Hearts series. And let me just say this, it's a lot to keep track of, I admit.
Rule number 2!
The second rule is this, is that everything has a heart. Yes, you heard me, everything has a heart. Regardless of what they are, who they are, or how they were created, everything has a heart. Or rather, everything has a potential to have a heart. There is technically a theory belief that everything has a soul, or in this case, a life force, such as the plants, the rocks, the air, the water, the earth itself. Everything has life. So in other words, yeah. So if you can believe in that concept alone, then you can believe that everything has a heart. In other words, everything, including humans, nobodies, dreams, and data. So in other words, this would also explain in Dream Drop Distance, in which where Sora encounters Xemnas and Sigbar, explaining the 13 organization members. Basically, they were told that they were going to get their hearts back, but in reality, they were planning to use Kingdom Hearts to put in separate versions of Xehanort's heart into those vessels. To which, unfortunately, it failed thanks to the efforts of Roxas, Xion, and of course Sora, as to be expected. But Roxas and Xion developed their own hearts. And then we get this famous line.
One can banish the heart from the body, but the body will try to replace it the first chance it gets, for as many times as it takes. And so I knew, even after we were divided into heartless and nobodies, it was just a temporary separation.
It's pretty crazy that this particular line alone helps explain everything in the series, but it can even go one step further. Again, like I said, it works not only in nobodies, but also to basically dreams, as well as data. And this is a big thing to talk about, because allow me to go even one step further to talk about something that not a lot of people talk about, and that is, how is it that we have 2 Trons and 2 Baymexes? And how does that work? Oh man, I've been trying to piece this for a long while. And why is it such a complicated subject to talk about? Because, as I've stated before, we have 2 Trons. Technically, one of them is named Rinsler from Tron's Legacy, and yet we see in Dream Drop Distance that particular Tron reached out for Sora. So there is an implication that he has somewhat ties to knowing who Sora is. May not have any memories of it, but knows a little bit about Sora compared to the actual Tron that Sora knows. Which is crazy, because this Tron doesn't know anything about Sora, whereas the other Tron that Sora knows is technically a copy of the original Tron. So yeah, that's something that needs to be talked about, because in Kingdom Hearts 2, during the time that Sora and them are in the space paranoid world with Tron basically explains that Ansem the Wise basically went into a unknown world, aka the world that they were based on, basically took a copy of the MCP along with Tron and Stark and all that, and basically copied it and made it into his computer. So yeah, they specifically said it is a copy. which means it's a copy of the original. And so this is where we have to break the ice even further. So allow me to explain to you a scenario in terms of data form, if you can understand that. Imagine if you had two copies of Windows 10. So you had one Windows 10 that's always online, always connected, and is never removed from the network. The other one is never connected to the internet, not once. Not once is it ever connected at all. So where am I going with this? Well, if any computer whiz is familiar with this terminology, you'll know that the one that is connected to the internet all the time will always receive updates. Every single time it will receive updates. Whether it may take a week or a month, who knows? It will receive an update all the time. Whereas one that is not connected to the internet all the time, they will not receive any updates whatsoever, but they will still continue running at their base performance since day one. They will never receive updates, and they will never know what else to do beyond just doing what was naturally programmed to begin with, versus the update version where it will always be rewritten. It will always have new features. It will always have new stuff. And also its coding will be very much different than the original source that it was made from. So you see, technically both of these are the same data, but one has been upgraded significantly to be something different, and the other one has not changed one bit. Same thing with the Kingdom Hearts Tron, where in Tron from Kingdom Hearts 2 is a copy of the original version and has been removed from the source material ever since, meaning it has been running its own course and has run a different program altogether. Versus the Tron Rinsler, in that world, he has been recoded, reformatted thanks to Clue, and has become a completely different program altogether. Completely different. However, though, they are both the same program. Meaning, even though the copy is a copy, the original is still Tron. Meaning, despite a copy, they share the same heart. Crazy, right? Until we look at Baymax. Yes, Baymax. Because by the end of the San Francisco Tokyo World visit in Kingdom Hearts 3, we have two Baymaxes. Why are there two Baymaxes? I don't know until we have to explain that little scenario. So, here's the thing. We have to remember that Kingdom Hearts has an ideology of the body, the mind, the soul, and then the heart. Apparently, all of that are different properties, completely different and isolated altogether. So, the Baymax in the original Big Hero 6, that is the original Baymax, and his heart is original, has been sent into the void, or in this case, the realm of darkness in Kingdom Hearts logic. We then have the Baymax that Hero created with the original data chip to create a new Baymax, a new body, and potentially probably created a new heart. So, technically speaking, could we argue and say that this could be the same Baymax as the other Baymax? Do they have two separate hearts? Are they actually one connected heart? We don't see anything beyond, oh hey, we now have two Baymaxes. They act coordinarily the same as the end credits had pointed out and stuff, so chances are maybe they are the same and they do share the same heart, but that element has yet to explain itself. So in other words, we really have no knowledge other than the fact that yes, they potentially share the same heart, or maybe it is two separate hearts. But then there's also Tron and Rinsler, in which where both of them are completely different, and even though Rinsler is different, he still reached out for Sora, which means he still feels the same feelings that Tron had in Kingdom Hearts 2, and it is connected to Rinsler. Thus, Tron is still Tron regardless of how many copies you made. But now I bring to you my fellow viewers, my fellow listeners, my fellow Kingdom Hearts fan theorists, fans, whatever you want to call yourself at this point. I have one more rule that stands out beyond anything else. Beyond a shadow of a doubt, this is the single most solitary rule that I can give you. And that is only because I have been able to figure out exactly what's going on in the Kingdom Hearts series. And that is, it is still being worked on. There's nothing else to say about this rule. It's just literally as it's stated. It is stated that the story is still going on, which means until it does get explained, it will never be explained. Or better yet, basically as the developers would say, keep the audience guessing. Always leave it unwritten. Leave it completely as a mystery. And it sucks for a lot of us. But let's look at it from a developer's point of view. Let's take a look at a particular interesting point. Something that will actually magnify even more as to why I think this fact is actually true. And interestingly enough, it actually involves another terminology in which we're talking about shipping. Yes, I'm actually talking about romance shipping. Can you believe that? Unbelievable. So there is a article in which Nomura was interviewed and talking about a particular character not related to Kingdom Hearts, but is technically featured in Kingdom Hearts 1 and 2 specifically. Basically talking about Sephiroth and to how many girlfriends he might have had. Nomura basically flat out says, I like to imagine that he may or may not have any girlfriends, you know? I like to keep it open-ended, you know, to keep the audience guessing and to kind of theorize and stuff. He actually finds it pretty fun, you know, to have fans theorize and to ship characters, and to them, this fantasy sparks something interesting on the net, basically creating traffic for the series. Basically, the more we talk about the series as to a particular subject or a particular character or anything of that nature, anything we talk about creates traffic for that particular series. So, much like with shipping, the story is very much the same way, in which where it leaves itself open-ended for us to theorize. What is inside Sora's shoes specifically? Are Axel and Isa orphans per se? Is Xion technically the daughter of Fexen? I cannot believe you made me think of that, Mac. And is Naminé technically the birth child of Sora and Kairi? Damn it, Mac!
Through Sora that he ended up using the power of waking on Kairi to get Naminé out of there.
Yep. Sora done a lot.
In other words, Sora helped Kairi with birth. Am I wrong?
No! But this kind of goes back to the whole flippin' situation with Xion and stuff. It's like, does that make Naminé the birth child of Sora and Kairi?
I mean, in the case of Sora, he had triplets.
Basically, anything that has yet to have been explained will either at some point be explained or may never get explained at all. And this is how it's going to help you guys out understand the story of Kingdom Hearts, and that is this. It is purely a fanfic. What? Much like how we have the fusion of Disney and Final Fantasy. An odd combination that ordinarily should never have happened, yet somehow has developed this wonderful relationship to its fans for the past 20 plus years. So the fact that it has created such a twisted and mangled story that has caused theorists to constantly try to struggle to figure itself out, to understand everything about itself, and yet at the same time still leave itself open and never really answering all of these questions that we still have lingered, is technically doing this job. It is crazy because really, in all honesty, last year when Kingdom Hearts 4 was officially announced, we had people buzzing on theories and ideals, and it left me in distress. Like, in so much distress. I kid you not. I was actually kind of in this realm of, like, overwhelmedness. Of, like, yeah, could we see Marvel? Could we see Star Wars? Could we see Indiana Jones? Is it going to be Disney related? Is it going to be based on the films or the TV series? What could happen? And really, That's kind of the beauty of it. It leaves us up to interpretation. We are never meant to know what's going to happen. We're just meant to fantasize of the ideal of what could come about and what could happen until it actually becomes realization to us. And that is the beautiful message that Kingdom Hearts delivers, is the mystery and the suspense that it creates for us to continue to stick to the series to this day. I know that final rule may not have helped anyone whatsoever. In fact, I'm pretty sure some of you are probably going to call me bullshit on all 3 rules. But in all honesty, those 3 rules has helped me understand Kingdom Hearts far more better, and because of that, I've enjoyed the series a lot more than I've ever thought I would. Just to know of all the ideal that has come up from the series, and how the series has evolved up to this point, you know? We're not left to know what's going to happen exactly. There is no track to follow. It's just kind of all over the place, and so until it becomes revealed, we're not meant to know anything really right now. We're only meant to know what is right now in face value of what is actually there, versus what could come out, what could happen, you know? And I think that's an okay thing, you know? I think that's cool. So guys, thank you so much for watching. Let me know in the comments below. Do you think these rules make any sense at all? Do you think these 3 rules help understand the series of Kingdom Hearts and to make it a little bit more simpler? If not, that's okay. I completely understand it. This helps me make sense of the series, and if it makes sense to help anybody else in the series, that's perfectly fine. But if not, I tried. So thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. This is BlackCross signing off. Catch you guys later.